Calxiyn and Hunter here. If you enjoyed this video, remember to become a patron over on Patreon. So today, Hunter and I wanted to go... Hunter didn't want to do anything. He's just here. Hunter and I wanted to go over how the Maidens actually work, and there's been some confusion about this the past couple days. So I think that we just want to kind of clarify how they work, and then what we think about how they work in relation to the relics. So let's just go ahead. So a couple of people have been a little bit confused, and I understand why. Oh, I forgot I had another theory that's kind of related to this, but it's separate. Like, don't worry about it, okay? We're making lots of videos, you know? Anyways, so basically the Maidens were explained this way, and I actually think this was a very nice way of tying in an element that was, like, barely, like, developed, I guess, like the Maidens, because remember the Maidens were created in between Volume 2 and 3. The relics were originally supposed to be the main thing, right? And so this was kind of, I don't want to say it was just thrown in randomly, but it's kind of like Neo.
It's a later
like,
edition.
nobody, like, expected Neo to be there, and so they kind of had to work around her, in a way. And so this is the same thing. I feel like this is a very natural way. But then you got some questions, right? Because, basically, the Maidens are the only ones capable of getting to where the relics are located. They unlock the vaults underneath the school. But this kind of begs a couple questions. The Maidens were, like, the relics were created at the beginning of mankind, or something, like, you know what I mean? And so this makes me think that it's not the relics that necessarily need to be used by the Maidens, but the vaults were specifically created for the Maidens to unlock, and each Maiden was assigned, a relic, if you will. That is how I understand it. Does that make sense, Hunter?
Yeah, I understand.
Should I explain that again?
No, I get it.
Okay. Because I just think it's that the relics, and I'm also just kind of looking through our stuff. But they never say that the Maidens are the only ones that can use them. They just say unlock. And so I feel like that's very important, because it wouldn't make sense for the relics to be only used by the Maidens if the Maidens came after.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that it's more like the wizard, which is obviously or not obviously Ozpin, depending on who you ask. The wizard created the vaults to protect the relics and then entrusted the Maidens with that responsibility.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily that normal...
The vault is the cabin that they see him in when they first see the old man in that fairy tale.
Boy. Not exactly, but, I had no idea where you were going though with that for a second. I was like, what is Hunter talking about? But... Oh my god, I lost my train of thought. What I mean to say is that I think that it's less of, no, like, only the Maidens can use the relics because they're special. It's more like the Maidens are only, it's like, it's that the Maidens are entrusted with the protection because of their powers. More like, I think. Is that the wizard created the vaults so the Maidens, could get into them, but the relics can be used by anyone, and I think this further is backed up by the fact that we know the king, kind of ended the Great War with, like, lightning that fell from the sky, and drought and stuff like that. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that they talk about. I don't think drought is one of them, but there's a bunch of stuff that they talk about in the World of Remnant about the war, and it seems like the king is using one of the relics. That wouldn't make sense for the king to be doing, if the king couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, if the Maidens were the only ones to use the relics, then obviously it wouldn't be the king using the relic, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I think the direction where they're going with this is that Ozpin created the vaults specifically with Maiden powers in mind. And that, anybody can use the relics, but the point was creating a wall behind them that only people with the special Maiden power could get to, because you don't want any random person going into the vault, right? And so they made kind of the vault to be special, right? And at the beginning, you know, he picks these 4 kind girls, right? And so it was kind of like that these girls were able to handle the responsibility of protecting such a powerful object that anyone can use to kind of wipe out humanity, so to speak. I think that may be a
Not
little
so
dramatic.
I think it is entire. You could definitely rule it, which I think is.
But
I mean, to be fair, Salem's doing a pretty good job of ruling humanity.
Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to make sure that I'm being like, because Hunter knows that I ramble.
Yes, you want to be as precise as possible.
Yes, exactly. And so if Hunter gets it, I'm guessing that we can move on. So I also kind of want to talk about briefly that they open as follows. So winter can open the creation vault, summer can open the destruction vault, spring can open the knowledge vault, and then fall can open the choice vault. And so I think that it makes sense that kind of the seasons, so to speak, don't really have anything to do with the relics that they're taking care of.
Because summer is death? I thought winter would be death.
They weren't made kind of, they weren't made with the maidens in mind, right? So it makes sense that the maidens have nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, so they just kind of assigned, probably at the beginning, they assigned the maidens more with, because we see how the maidens act, right, in the world of Remnant, right? And so we see kind of their personalities, and so I'm thinking it was based more on their personality, more than the actual season that they represented. Because remember how there was that little world of Remnant thing where it explained, like, the maidens and their personalities and how nice they were with the wizard and what they gave him? Like, I feel like it relates more to that.
Yeah.
If you will. And so, I feel like it makes more sense in the context of looking at the personalities given, in that video, rather than, looking as it, like, from how we understand seasons. And, like, another thing, I know this is weird, but, like, just a reminder, they are in Texas, right? So the summer is death. You know what I mean? Like, it gets very, very hot, like, and it wouldn't get cold, right? Like, because I don't know much about Texas, but it doesn't snow there, right?
I think snow is relatively rare.
Yeah, and so, like, in Canada, obviously, we see winter as death because it gets to, like, minus 22 degrees. But remember that this is also coming from people, like, that are writers in Austin, Texas, right? And we don't exactly know the climate, necessarily, of Remnant either. But we can kind of assume that because the only, like, really snowy area is Atlas, that everywhere else, like, especially Menagerie, may be really hot. And so, yeah, summer is death. Summer is destructive. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's where the summer maiden is.
In Vacuo?
In Vacuo, because they talked about how hard Vacuo was.
I actually kind of have a theory on that for a separate video. So you guys will see this week. But I am going to make a video on how the maidens basically... or how the relics affected each kingdom, and so Hunter and I will go Hunter and I will go more in depth into that more, but I just wanted to clarify how the maidens work so you guys kind of understood going forward, you know, and this has also helped me because I think wording is very tricky, and at the same time, Crow hasn't always been the most reliable narrator. I hate to say it like that, but you know, like, I don't know how to explain this either. We all have our biases, in a sense. Crow obviously has a bias. He's regurgitating something Ozpin told him. And so if you get Ozpin to say something and Crow to say something, if you're a good writer, they should say it in a different way, right? Because they're two different people. They both interpret it differently. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're memorizing word for word, like if I explain something to Hunter and then he goes home and explains it to his parents, it's probably not going to be, like, verbatim what I said. You know what I mean? Like, because we both have different kind of ways of relaying information. And so with Crow, even though Crow says one thing one way, Ozpin will probably clarify it later. And so we're not saying necessarily that Crow is wrong, but I think that we should also keep in mind, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, and if you've been watching my videos, you already understand, but there is sort of a case that we need to remember of, like, faulty narrators. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Crow isn't perfect. He didn't create the maidens, so he doesn't understand as well as, like, Ozpin, who actually made them, for example. And Presumably. And so we also need to keep that in mind for the world of Remnants as well, right? Because they're told by the villain of the show, and then Crow, you know what I mean? And so I feel like that's very important, and we do need to keep that in mind going forward, that I think that we basically need to watch for We need to watch to see if later Ozpin explains it a little differently, because remember, again, I don't think necessarily what Crow is saying is 100% yes, this is the truth. I think it would be naive to think that, because what we're getting is a partial truth, in a sense. We are getting Crow's version of what he understands as the truth. And so to get to the bottom of things, we'll need to see from a variety of sources what exactly is going on. And so this is a good explanation as we have it for now, but later, you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess.
It's good to know that differing views on religious scriptures that cause conflict only exist in fantasy worlds.
And not here.
And not here at all.
Not here on Earth. No,
not one bit.
I didn't understand that at first, but now I know you're talking about the gods, and that made everything a little more understandable. Anyway, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to check out our Patreon to become a patron. You can do it for as little as $1, and I hope to see you guys on my Discord server, where we're at 300 members now. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Hunter comes on there like once a year. It's nice, you know.
I've been coming on more.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I'd like to let you know.
Anyway, guys, we will see you later. Bye bye.